Joining me now to give you an inside look at who this domestic terrorist group is, the Weather Underground, and who they really were and who they are today, is Larry Grathwohl. He infiltrated the Weather Underground and is the author of the book Bringing Down America, and he granted us his first television interview today since re-releasing the book. Thank you so much for coming on, sir.
Glad to be here.
So let's talk about how you ended up working with the FBI. You served in Vietnam. Let's pick it up right after your service in Vietnam.
Well, I came home in 1966 from Vietnam. I was discharged in 1968. I was a drill instructor at Fort Knox, Kentucky. I began going to the University of Cincinnati in 1968. And in the summer of 1969, I was recruited by members of the Weather Underground on the university campus. I immediately went to the Cincinnati Police Department, who asked me to attend the meetings that I had been invited to. Later, after the national action, which occurred in Chicago in October of 1969, I went to the FBI realizing that this was a national organization, not a group of nuts that were confined necessarily to Ohio or Cincinnati.
That's
how I got started.
I have the 1969 precursor to Prairie Fire. I have a copy of it right here. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. And they begin in this manifesto to talk about this violent revolution they want to bring about for social justice and peace. But how are they planning on bringing about social justice and peace by putting bombs in places where they would kill innocent people?
Well, these guys actually believed that they were capable of overthrowing the government. And if you were familiar with the time period, 1969 and the 70s, you recognize that there was a lot of turmoil in the country, both anti-war movements and also a big uprising with civil rights. And so it was kind of easy for these guys to think that maybe they were part of an international conspiracy that was going to overthrow the government. They honestly believed that they were going to succeed, and that the only way to accomplish this goal of creating a communist society and government here in the United States was by strategic sabotage. So they broke themselves down into groups that they referred to as focals. I call them cells of 4 or 5 people who were operating in various cities throughout the United States up until the mid-'80s, and some of them later, when they finally gave themselves up. And the number of bombings that they committed are significant. The number of bombings that I know that people were actually killed was the Park Police Station bombing, and then, of course, their accidental explosion of a bomb in Greenwich Village in February, or March of 1970.
Why you? I mean, looking through this, why were they looking for someone like you? Was it because you were a Vietnam vet and they assumed you were disillusioned with the war? Why you? How did they come to you?
Well, I certainly used that as part of my cover, or my story, that I was telling the Weathermen that I was disillusioned because of my service in Vietnam. But it just so happens that at the very time they attempted to recruit me, in the spring of 1969, they had been to Cuba, where they had been in meetings with the North Vietnamese and the Cubans, and they were criticized for being an elitist group, mostly upper middle class or upper class backgrounds, well educated, and that they needed to be looking for recruits who had military experience and were streetwise, working class people. And here I came. It was perfect timing for me, and fortunately I was able to respond in such a way to any of their criticisms of me that allowed me to continue in the organization up until the time that my cover was blown, when they arrested Linda Evans in April of 1969.